I've received quite a few comments lately asking about the three-way switch for different flight modes set up using the Turnigy 9X. So in this video I wanted to walk through basically the differences in Heli and Acro Mode. I've done a video that shows how to set this up both in Heli Mode, which is a little bit trickier than setting it up in Acro Mode. And Acro Mode is actually what I fly in now. That's kind of a plain mode. And you can get up to 6 different flight modes. And I have a video that shows how to do that with the APM. And if you're flying with this Turnigy 9X, which is one of the first transmitters I started with, you'll know that there's just this one three-way switch. And I have the FrSky next to me just to demonstrate that. You should highly consider this radio if you do anything with your flight modes, because it actually has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 3-mode switches. So very useful and super easy to set up compared to the Turnigy. Okay, I'm going to go into my Turnigy menu and demonstrate a couple things. Now we'll just select a new model. And for type, we'll do Acro, which is a plane mode. And for stick, I'm going to do mode 2. No throttle reverse. I'll exit out. And here's where some of the confusion lies. Now I'm in Acro mode, which is generally used for your plane. And if you go in, set up auxiliary channel, we'll hit channel 5. And we'll put that at gear. Now there's nothing wired into channel 5 in this setup. It's actually channel 6 that we have wired from our receiver to the U port on the NAZA. We do that and then we go to our program mixing. I'll put a link to the actual setup of this below. I just want to quickly walk you through some of the differences between this mode and Heli mode. So we set that to gyro, then flat for the slave, and then here's where you go in and you set your different offsets and rates to basically get the slider where you want it to be. Select normal, we'll hit menu to save that. And you can see in mix 2, I've just activated the gyro on flap, set some random values, set it to ID 1. I'll do the same for mix 3. For mix 3, then I'll set that on switch position 2. Go ahead and hit menu. Okay, now let me show you what that does. So if we go down to our display menu, which is very useful, you can see we have our first 4 channels, then we have the gyro, which if you recall, that was our master channel. If I flip the gear, you'll see that adjust. Now once again, that's channel 5 with nothing connected to it in the receiver. But here's what's interesting. Now if I go to the 3-position switch, you'll see these values for the flap change, and that's channel 6. So that's how the 3-position switch behaves when you have it set up in Acro mode. And once again, you get these values coming out of channel 6 into the U port on the NAZA corresponding to the different flight modes. Now I realize I keep referring to the NAZA, but anything that you have configured to support multiple flight modes can work with this setup. Okay, so that's Acro Mode, which I've stated before I'm currently using. Allows me to get up to 6 flight modes with my APM if I'm using the Turnigy 9X. The other thing I'd like to demonstrate is the setup of Heli Mode. So I'm going to go in here and we're going to select Heli, Heli 1, and we'll change our stick to mode 2. Now you can see little Heli on the main screen. Now this is where a good source of the confusion lies, and I receive a lot of comments about, because I've done multiple videos of flight modes originally in Heli mode, but now I've switched to Acro mode. Leads to a bit of confusion given that I didn't talk about that in previous videos. That's why I've decided to dive into it in this video. So let me show you the first difference with the Heli mode. So if we go to display, so if you watch me throttle up, you'll notice that the pitch moves along with it. Now, I'm not a Heli guy, but I do know that the purpose of that is in certain cases you may want to keep your throttle constant with a throttle hold switch and then just use this stick to control your collective pitch on your main rotor. So that's basically the Heli template and what it does by default. And as in a previous video, I'll show you actually how to overcome that. So what we need to do is exit out of our display menu, and then we're going to go up to our pitch curve menu. Select that. Now what you'll notice is that this is a linear curve, and for each value in the curve, you'll notice this line goes by. These are the pitch values that correspond directly with the throttle values as you move up and down. So for each switch setting, there are 5 values: low, 1, 2, 3, and high. We're going to change those to static values. Now you'll notice if I toggle the switch, you have ID1, ID2, and we'll start with normal. Now it'll be up to you to decide the actual values that you want to set these to be to represent pulse widths that correspond to flight modes within the NAZA Assistant or any software that you're using. So you'll see for the normal switch position, I put these all at 0. I'll go ahead and save that. Now you'll notice if I switch to position 1, ID1, we have a linear curve again. So let's go ahead and change this to 50%. Now we have a flat curve at 50% for that ID1. We'll go to ID2, and we'll go ahead and set these all to 100%. Now you can see our curve across the top. I'll hit menu, and we now have our 3 positions saved. Okay, so now let's go back down to the display menu. Now let's see what happens when I hit my throttle. That pitch is stationary, and that currently has our switch position all the way up, which I'll just refer to as switch position 1. So if I go down to 2, you can see our pitch has gone to 50%. It's gone from 0 to 50%. And if I give some throttle, nothing happens, which is what we want. And then if I go all the way down to the last switch position, which was 100%, you can see that the pitch is not affected by the throttle. At each switch position, it keeps that pitch constant. And when you have this running from channel 6 out of your receiver to your U port on your NAZA, and you toggle that switch, that's basically what generates your different flight modes. Okay, so I realized that wasn't too exciting, but I felt like it was important to kind of explain and demonstrate really the differences between Heli and Acro Mode. Now, I know there are other differences, but those are the main ones that you need to be looking out for when setting up your 3-position switch. And once again, I can't say enough about this FrSky and the 6 different 3-position switches and how easy it is to really configure those. Now, part of that's a function of OpenTX firmware running on this. I know there are guys that have modded this to run OpenTX. So if you're not ready to do the upgrade to a Taranis, you still have that option with the Turnigy 9X. So I hope that was useful and clarifies things a bit for some of you that were asking why that pitch curve kept moving when you moved the throttle. So that's it for now. If you have any questions or comments, please post them below. And until next time, thanks for watching.